Hi there, welcome to this week's vlog. And today you find me in a place called Langton Matravers. Do you know where that is? It's down on the south coast in Dorset. We're on holiday this week. Sue and I, along with our son Chris, his wife Megan, and their three boys, having a good time. Although last 2 or 3 days has been very wet indeed. But we're away, and they say a change is as good as a rest, don't they? We've had some good trips out, and I was able to go and see my hometown team, Hull City, play in Southampton on Tuesday evening, and they came away with a magnificent victory. Also able last Saturday to run in a nearby parkrun, which was apparently the hilliest parkrun in the whole of Britain. It was quite tough in places, but I managed to stay the course. But anyway, I want to just mention briefly today a couple of books one that I've just read and one that I'm in the middle of reading. They're both actually kind of linked themes, if you like. But anyway, the first one is by a chap called David Oliver. It's called All About Heaven. And the reason that David Oliver wrote this was because he had the dreadful experience of his son Joel, who I think was in his 20s, certainly a young man, who David Oliver describes as his best friend. He was diagnosed with cancer and died in a very short time. Joel was a Christian. He was a Christian leader. He had a wife and young children. So it was an awful, awful experience. But David Oliver, who is also a Christian, some questions came into his mind as Joel had died, and so he set out to discover as much as he could about heaven. Where is it that Christians go when they die? Before Jesus returns, where are they? Where are our family, our friends who've died as Christians? Where are they now? And this is absolutely fascinating book. It's opened my eyes to a few things, but the main point is that when Christians die, they go to be with Jesus. And I just want to read one paragraph from the book. He writes, Jesus talked about heaven and peppered his conversation with the word. Altogether in the Gospels, the word appears more than 120 times, mostly from the lips of Jesus. He talked about the kingdom of heaven and reward in heaven. He talked about his Father in heaven. He talked about reclining at a table with the patriarchs in heaven. He talked about laying up treasure in heaven. Heaven was a focus and heaven was a passion. And one of the things you get from the book, of course you get it from the Bible really, is that when we die, if our faith is in Christ, we go to be with God, and that place is absolutely amazing. One of the chapters deals with what's sometimes called near-death experiences that people have had, and sometimes people have seen that as a glimpse of heaven, a little glimpse of heaven, and it's hard to put into words those experiences. But what we need to remember is what Paul says, that our citizenship is not here on earth, but it's in heaven. So we're here temporarily, just for a relatively short time, but our citizenship, our home, is in heaven. Jesus said, I go to prepare a place for you. I'll come again to take you to be with me. So we've got so much to look forward to. And, that makes any suffering, any tough times that we have to go through in this life, just pales into insignificance. In fact, Mother Teresa, one of the quotes, I haven't got the exact words, but she says in effect that any troubles we experience in this life, any hardship, any tough times, are just like, she illustrates it as staying in a hotel that isn't very good overnight. It's just a little inconvenience compared with the joy that we have, the treasure in heaven, the experience that we will have if our faith, our trust is in Jesus. In fact, Paul says, doesn't he, for me to live is Christ, to die is gain, because then I will be with him in heaven. And so if you're a follower of Jesus, I want to encourage you, if you're going through a tough time, just remember all that we've got to look forward to, being in the very presence of God. It's an amazing thing. I would if you want to find out more, I would recommend this book, All About Heaven by David Oliver. And the other book that I'm just still reading is, well, I guess there's a link. Well, there is a link. It's called Angels by Hope Price. I saw her being interviewed by Canon J. John recently, so I got hold of this book. It's not a new book. It was published in 1993, so 30 years ago. But she felt that God wanted her to write this book about an area of Christian life and experience, spirituality that there wasn't much about at the time. And the subtitle for the book is True Stories of How They, that is Angels, Touch Our Lives. And she put out a plea for anybody who's had experience of angels to write to her. And she was surprised by how many people did write. And it's the book is divided into different areas of angelic experience. Like angels on the road, angel experiences of children, angels in human form, etc., etc. And it's really interesting. The foreword is by David Suchet, who was most famous, I guess, for playing Poirot on the TV for many years. It's, again, a fascinating book. People writing in and telling of their experience of angels, whether sometimes they appear as you might expect, almost from the Bible, angelic appearance, with tall, powerful, winged. Other times they appear as human beings. Angels are God's messengers. He uses them to accomplish his purpose here on earth, as well as obviously in heaven. But he sends them sometimes to protect us, sometimes to give a message, sometimes to guide us. So that's fascinating. I've never seen, as far as I remember, I've never seen an angel. I think I probably would remember if I'd seen one. But it's just so good, isn't it, to know that God is overseeing our lives. He knows what's going on in our lives. He's never taken by surprise. And sometimes he uses his angels to guide us, to protect us. Maybe that there have been times in our lives when that's happened that we've not noticed, because angels are in the spiritual realm and so often we cannot see them. Paul, doesn't he, talks about the spiritual realm, which is very real, but it's one that we often do not see. But in fact, he says, doesn't he, our battle is not against flesh and blood, but against the spiritual forces in the heavenly realms, where God has his angels to help us when we are in need. So just a couple of books: All About Heaven, David Oliver; Angels by Hope Price. Although it's 30 years old, still a fascinating read, available secondhand. So just overall an encouragement that we have got so much. We are so blessed if we know Jesus, and if our faith is in him, if we are assured of God's loving presence in our lives, that he's never taken by surprise. He watches over us and says to us, I will never leave you. I will never forsake you. So God bless. Thank you so much for listening today.